Hey, all you cool cat and kittens. Welcome back to another episode of The Center Ring. This is episode 230, coming to you live and or pre-recorded. This will be the best episode ever, as we have everyone's favorite segment, Clutch or Kick. We have quite a loaded one there. Also, Riot has given us a little bit more peek behind the curtains as far as what their plans are for Valorant esports scene, so we'll dive into all the latest news there. But before we do that, Anuj, fun fact. An hour before the show, I spent it shirtless. Would you like to know why?
I can see it right now.
That's because when you have a baby, Anuj, you just don't know what's going to happen. Vomit, spit up, it comes at you like an assassin.
And especially with the boy, it could go in any direction.
It just comes everywhere. It just goes out of every hole. It's ridiculous. And it never fails. As you're about to start the show, you're wearing a shirt all day. You want to look fresh for the podcast. And he spits up on it. But not today. I took extra precaution. That's because I am wearing Alt's brand new Laser Cat shirt. Look at that. I'll even throw it up on stream during the intro, just so everyone can see this. Check it out. Go at Ultimate on Twitter, altesports.com. It's their brand new Laser Cat. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a cat looking over a mountaintop shooting lasers out of its eyes. You can't get any better than that. So I spent the hour before the show going shirtless because I did not want this shirt to be tarnished.
Did it come with 3D glasses or anything?
This one did not, no, but you almost don't need it. And it is so soft, let me tell you. My nipples have never, it's like just clouds resting on my man boobs.
Lovely.
It is quite lovely. And you can get your very own Laser Cat t-shirt, 101 Burglars, which is our lineup with Alt. You can get that all at altesports.com.
Hey, this is Shroud, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Center Ring. Hello. This is episode 230. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the Center Ring. And our website, tcr.gg, has all the other links to our Discord, Twitter, YouTube, everything that you need to know. tcr.gg. My name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
It's going. It's Wednesday for Thursday's episode. I can't complain. I have tomorrow off of work. Not for
I need to just find a way to game a little bit. I have not got it out of my system. And I have this itch with obviously Valorant being out and available. And I just haven't been able to put in the time like I want to.
I feel ya. It's weird how it works because it's like Valorant is out and you expect all this time to play. And then it's with the child, even tomorrow, I'm taking the day off not to do things that I want to do. My kid somehow hasn't left the house for a month and has strep throat. I don't know how he managed to do it.
How does that happen?
I have no idea.
Babysitter?
Maybe. I mean, he goes to a sitter a couple times a week for a couple hours a day, so anything's possible, I guess. Anything is possible. If a baby can find a way to get sick, I've discovered they're gonna get sick. But so that's what I get to do tomorrow. I work from home now, but I'm not going into work. I'm not clocking in, and I will spend the day watching child as my wife gets some of her work done. So it is awkward. It does suck. You'll find out. Using time off, using PTO for another human, whether it be your wife or your child that you love unconditionally, sucks.
Especially when you're used to taking that day off just to for a new release for a video game or
just
something.
That random day off. And it even sucks more because I know we were planning on we do this podcast, I would say 50% because we love esports, 40% because we love our listeners. No, flip it. We do it 10% because we like esports, 40% because we love our listeners, 50% just so we have an excuse to tell our wives on why we need to play games.
Like a reason to sit in front of my computer
Like,
that I spent all this time saving up for and building and getting the way I want to. Like
sorry,
I needed
sweetie,
just to sit in front of it.
This new game came out and it's supposed to be really popular in esports, so we need to play. We got to learn it. We got to figure out what it's about.
I told her I got invited to the beta.
Yeah, we personally got invited. They reached out to us.
That was an invite.
Yeah.
Babe, they gave it to like just a couple thousand people across the world, and I was one of the few to get it.
You're technically not lying.
I'm not lying. Not lying.
Not lying. Because we even had this whole thing planned, like when Valorant came out. Remember, I was like, I'll just go to your house like all day one Saturday, and we can do like a TCR Valorant stream from your house, like a mini LAN party. And now we can't even use that excuse because we can't leave the house.
I say we do it next weekend.
We had a lot planned. That's the worst thing. If I can be selfish about this COVID-19 thing, if, just ignore all the other negative stuff around it, and if I can make it about me for a moment, we had a lot of things planned for like March and April and May. Like interviews lined up at live events, everything.
Well, it's just unfortunate because we had all the Dallas events right at that time. They were like all set up back to back to back with the Apex Championship, League of Legends. We had Call of Duty. I don't believe we had a Counter-Strike event coming up during that time, but still, that's like 3 really big ones back to back to back that were going to be here, along with just the normal stuff that we do in between. So yeah, it was really shitty timing. And even now, I'd like be able to sit at home at least, catch up on some of this stuff, game a little bit more. No, when your wife is 7.5 months pregnant and she has an essential job, right? She's a nurse, so she's going into the hospital still and working. So it's like one of those things where I don't have the type of free time I thought I would have.
Also,
I almost
don't have
busier to a certain extent.
No excuses, right? And what's funny is now I feel like now, and even though you may never admit it, in the back of your mind, you're like, now I get why Tim was never on. Like,
oh yeah, no, it makes 100% sense.
Yeah, like before you're like, he hasn't had the kid yet. Why? His wife is just like 7 months pregnant. Why can't he get on? Because when you're 7 months pregnant, you might as well have had the kid.
I envy the people that marry gamer girlfriends.
Yeah.
Like I envy them to a certain extent. Like there is some, I love my wife. I love her to death, but I envy them a lot.
Though I will also say this, as a gamer, and maybe other gamers can relate to this, you kind of need the non-gamer girlfriend or wife or lover. Just guy, girl, whatever. Furry, if you're into that. Because I need that balance. If not, my life is starting to look like XQC a little bit.
That's true. Like an Asmongold
it's all fun and games. Like it's easy to make fun of. If you haven't seen it, we'll tweet it out. But if you haven't, XQC sent a picture of his office, bedroom, stream room, whatever you call it.
Significantly cleaner than picture 1 a few months back.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. And it's disgusting. I mean, it's like you have plates with food on it sitting on the ground, pop cans that are just everywhere.
It really bothers me to just look at that picture. Like I look at it and I'm irritated by looking at it because I just don't understand.
There's a wide range of emotion. I feel angry.
And then I start to think of like how much they're making. Like that for whatever reason that runs through my head. Like I look at Asmongold. He's a big WoW streamer for those of you that don't know him. He shows pictures of his desk, and Tim, he's got literally you can see a corner of his mouse pad where he can move it, but everything else is surrounded by like big gulps and fast food bags all over his desk and all around it. I'm like, you're a millionaire. Like I know you're a millionaire just based on your Twitch sub number, not counting whatever else you have
donation
going on
and sponsorship.
But that's how you live. And yeah, maybe if I did have a gamer girlfriend, like I don't know, I'm a neat freak. If you've seen my office, I keep it pretty damn clean.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
try not to have stuff
I would like
everywhere.
to consider myself neat as well. I don't have a closet in my office. That's the issue.
That's the killer.
This corner of a mess that you see behind me on stream, that's my corner of junk because I don't have a closet in my office. If I had a closet, it would all be in there and my office would look clean.
Cover up 90% of it.
Right. But I don't. but again, like I also kind of just you need that yin to your yang, because it's all fun and games to make fun of XQC, but maybe.
I don't know. Every once in a while, Tim, I'm looking for some 66, not 69.
Look,
like
it's still not too late for you to get out though. Your kid isn't here yet. Like you don't have. See, the issue is when you see him, that's when that unconditional love starts. But prior, like, dude, you could run. It's fine.
I'm like, I don't make enough to worry about a prenup.
No, she's not going to attack you.
I don't even have life insurance.
Like,
what are you gonna go for?
You're good. You haven't seen him. He hasn't seen you. There is no love there yet.
It's easy math. What's half of nothing?
You could get out. I'm telling you. Don't make the same mistake I did and stick around. You can get out of this. Maybe that can be the first clutch or kick. Will Anuj stick around for his son? Clutch or kick. Let's get into let's get into some and then just imagine if your wife heard that part of the podcast, but that would require them listening.
If my wife listened to the podcast.
That would require our wives listening to the podcast to understand that we talk shit about them on it.
Asking for the occasional like on Instagram and Facebook is really the extent of our relationship when it comes to the podcast.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and even that's half the time grabbing their phone to like it yourself. The grind is real. The grind is real. Let's get to some clutch or kick though. Everyone's favorite segment. It's where we go over hot topics of the day and say whether or not they clutch or kick. Meaning, do they stick around or are we not buying it? The first
play
one.
the fancy music to tee us up. That's right. I still haven't done it.
Clutch or kick. It's a clutch or kick a game. The first one on the list, Anuj. In clutch or kick. I swear to God, at this point, I feel like we should have a countdown or a timer on our show. You know, like in a warehouse when it's like, we have had this many days without an accident.
Yeah.
I feel like in esports, and I'm considering this esports, right? Under this umbrella, we can say it's an esport. It needs to be like we have gone this many days without saying the N-word.
It finds its way on this show often enough. It really does.
This and child molesters.
This also becomes a nominee for like Yikes of the Year. Although we're not throwing it in Yikes because it deserves a place on this segment. This should qualify for a Yikes of the Year.
So for those who don't know, Kyle Larson, very successful, very talented NASCAR driver, who is now finding himself being an esports professional as all of them are moving over to iRacing or iRacing races, however you want to word it. Well, Anuj, he was on stream and got caught saying the N-word as he thought people could not hear him. And then all of a sudden he goes, "Hey guys, can you hear me? Hey, hard R." And instantly all the other guys were like, "Whoa, yes, we can hear you." Like,
he did get a yikes from one of the. Did you hear? Yikes. Like, I had the.
Yeah, oh yeah, I heard the audio.
TC on there to see that.
The
last guy was like, "Yikes!" No, for sure, man. Like, you want me to lead this one off here?
Yeah. Well,
what is the TSR?
Yeah. So long story short is he was first suspended by NASCAR, and then eventually, like a day after, and like it was very quick, let go by Chip Ganassi Racing, which is his race team here. So now he does not have a team. He is suspended from NASCAR currently. Clutch or kick. Will we ever see Kyle Larson race again? Whether that be in esports as iRacing is taking off or in real life.
Does that as a streamer count?
Yeah, of course.
That could be where his career is headed. No, I mean, what would it be if I'm choosing to say we don't ever see him again?
I guess clutch. You're clutching it that he's going to stay off a team.
Okay, definitely clutching this. It was so, for those of you that haven't seen it, go watch this video. It's so bad. I mean, it's like, it's one of those moments where you can't even say it was like it accidentally came out.
Like a fit of rage, and you just said the worst thing you could think of.
Yeah, he had time to like set it up. He thought nobody was listening. This was his way to get
literally any other word. Any other word.
Other word.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Any other word.
Pineapple. asparagus.
Yeah, I mean, he could have dropped the F-bomb on live TV and they would have forgiven him. He would have been fine. They'd have been like, oh, thought he was muted, you know? But it was definitely an instantaneous reaction from his peers, realizing how bad this situation was about to be. You could feel it in their voices when they were like, everybody can hear you, dude. And it's good, it's sad almost that it has to happen this way from a traditional sport where they automatically kick somebody off the team without even hesitation, right? Like this guy is a good driver for this team. And they didn't even blink. I mean, within 24 hours, he is off the team. He's suspended from NASCAR, where we've seen it in esports, unfortunately, a handful of times now. And that's where,
well, I mean, I tweeted out the joke, and I'll get to my thing here because I have something that I want to say about it too. But I tweeted out the joke saying like it's a too bad Kyle Larson isn't a streamer or involved with esports, because this probably would actually boost his career.
He wouldn't have completely lost his career. Like, I mean, he would have been able to continue on in some way, right? You probably would have been suspended looking at the game or something like that if it happened during a live event. But yeah, I mean that's the other thing, right? This wasn't in some sort of off-stream moment, or like, I mean, in the sense of his like personal stream or something like that, or got caught saying it in public. He said this live on broadcast, so it's even worse. And so for him, it's a definite clutch for me that we do not see him again in any future iRacing events or NASCAR events.
So I think so. There's like multiple levels to this, right? So obviously with NASCAR, for those who don't know, you live and die by your sponsors. Like, yes, your racing team has a lot of money, but those come from sponsorship. And so that's mainly, I think, the reason here, right? Like in esports, or if you're a streamer, you're self-made and you kind of have that crowd around you. So you kind of have your audience, right? So that's why he was dropped so fast, was because they were in fear of like those sponsors leaving and the outcome and the fallout of that. Now, I will say, Kyle Larson's really good. So I think we will see him racing. I don't know in NASCAR, but maybe in a truck series or a dirt series, or hell, like we said, even iRacing, right? He might just say, okay, I'm just going to the digital side of this. I'm going to esports now and finding a sponsor there and being a little bit low key. Now, I will say this, Anuj. Maybe this is just me being a dad and getting older and not wanting to cast stones or being more forgiving. I have a hard time crucifying him because I have been on that side where I think they should get torched and their careers should be ruined, and it's not. And then they come right back and everyone forgives them and life goes on, right? Ninja said the N-word. He's got busted for saying the N-word. PewDiePie has got busted for saying the N-word. Sadakis,
and they've gotten bigger since then.
Yes, exactly. And they're huge. Did anyone drop Ninja? No. He got a multi-million-dollar deal with Mixer and on cans of Red Bull and hosting New Year's Eve in New York.
To me, this situation felt a little different the way it happened. I mean, again, it just wasn't like a straight heat of the moment. Again, that is also not an excuse, right? I'm just saying, context also does have something to do with it.
Like for me, the way I look at this, as far as a personal level, you have the business side of it, which you got to suspend him without pay and make him realize what he did. I don't know if I would let him go necessarily, but from a NASCAR standpoint, it's not up to me.
There's no sponsors that are going to want to have his name tied to him.
Yeah. Like, who is there, like a Confederate flag manufacturer that wants to sponsor your car? Because that'd probably be the only one.
Yeah, that'd be about it.
So I get that. I'm just saying from a personal, like, do I judge the guy? Like, what he did was outrageously stupid, but I don't think it came out of, like, malicious intent. I think it was ignorant, and I think he's dumb, but I don't think it was malicious in the sense of, like, I don't think any of us were, but, like, when Sadakis, for example, did it, right? And now maybe that has killed his career in esports because we don't see him around in esports as often now. Right, he's kind of focuses
by choice versus
or that's what I'm saying. Well, I don't know how behind the scenes. Maybe he wasn't getting the jobs he wanted to, or maybe his peers were taking jabs at him for it, and he said, "F this, I'm going back to the racing life." I don't know. I'm just saying, We have seen it happen way too many times where that crowd of supporters quickly forgives and forgets, and then we see them right back even stronger than before. Like, that's just the world we live in, to where if you make a mistake, you apologize, you come back, you lay low for a little bit, come back, and all of your supporters are going to love you 10 times over.
His apology was pretty weak too. Did you see it by chance on his Twitter?
Listen, athletes here, okay? Wait for your PR guy. This goes out to This is free advice from the center ring. If you are in esports, if you are a streamer, any sort of notoriety, if you screw up at the level that Kyle Larson did, wait for your PR guy for the apology.
Let them write you up something pretty nice, because that
so
was
lame.
A terrible apology, and it didn't feel genuine, and it didn't really address anything. So for me, it's just...
How do you like, and we can move on after this one, but how do you like after his apology, he was like, and I just hope everyone's safe in these crazy times. Yeah. What does that have anything to do with you dropping the hard R very intently? Bro.
He didn't go in with much of a plan on that one.
No, he was winging it. It's like, you could have just deleted that. It wasn't like a live apology. You could have redone that. And that's the sad thing is, that was probably like the 100th apology he went through, and just thought, that's the one.
This is the best one. I
nailed it. This
is it. He probably said a hard R in like the first 12.
What's up? Yeah. So again, it's absolutely ridiculous. No, you should never use that. But I'm also kind of becoming immune to the sense of like, do I believe people who are grabbing their torches and pitchforks that they're really that upset about it? No. Because truly, I don't think anyone at the end of the day cares a week later. That's my honest opinion about it. I'm not saying you should say it. I'm just saying...
Well, we'll forget about it because he's going to be out of the limelight too a week from now.
Right. But again, if he was Ninja, then we wouldn't...
Yeah, I mean, PewDiePie got a lot of heat when all that happened. And it did take some time for people to forget. And even then, he's also had other like disciplinary issues with some of his videos. So it's like, it's kind of still tied to PewDiePie.
Oh, you're never walking away from it.
Well, for Ninja, I feel like...
Well, yeah, but that's because his
most
viewership...
people probably don't even know about that instance. Now, granted, you're right. Viewership numbers for him when it happened to where they are now are night and day. Like, it's not even recognizable. But for PewDiePie, it was relatively close to his peak, although he's still grown since then. Hasn't really left him, and I don't think it will.
No. Just don't say the N-word, folks. Don't say bad words when you're not supposed to. It's not that difficult. I swear to God, we're starting the timer. It's been, 3 days since we've said the N-word in esports. Congratulations.
Let's go for a month.
Let's just get to a month. Next clutch or kick here, Nuge. We have heard from multiple people. I know Dr. Disrespect, Mike Rafael, Hastro, friend of the show, has tweeted out about this. I'll let you get into more details here. But I want you to paint the question here. Was Valorant overhyped?
Yeah, I mean, for sure it was overhyped because everybody in the gaming community was looking forward to it, right? And you merged several groups of gamers, right? You grouped up these MOBA people that are diehard League of Legends fans, Counter-Strike people who are just kind of looking for a new version of the same game they've been playing for maybe the last 5 up to 20 plus years, depending on how long you go back. Overwatch people being unhappy with the status and the state of their game and the way it is, all kind of craving for something new. And you can even throw in like Apex Legends players, like not getting the support from the developer. So everybody was like bought into this being, or hoping that it's going to be the game of the century. And that's always going to be a little bit of a letdown in my mind. Like nothing is ever going to like hit us the way some of these first iterations that we ever saw of these games like 10, 15 plus years ago. So I do think there was overhype towards it. Am I saying that it's a bad game? Not at all, dude. I love the game. I think it's a fantastic game.
Do you have the tweet in front of you that Mike tweeted out?
I do. So he goes, here's my Valorant take. This is a good game. However, it's not reinventing much at all. We are just combining a lot here. Feels like CSGO, looks a little like Paladins, gives some Overwatch vibes. Plus, here are a few reasons why this game will do well, in my opinion. Riot understands how to cater to the competitive community. Match stats, data, analytics will probably be super dope, open, and enhanced by the community. And netcode, custom match tools, and cosmetics will all be tier 1.
So you're saying it was a clutch for being overhyped?
Yeah, but there's a difference. Like saying it's overhyped doesn't mean I'm saying
I mean,
it's a
there's
bad
a
game.
negative connotation to overhyped, but I understand
Yeah.
what you mean. Yeah,
I think everybody just wanted the next best game, and I think there's still things that need to be done to Valorant for it to be more enjoyable for me specifically, but I don't know if that's what matters. Like, I feel like I'm thinking of it from a competitive standpoint, right? Like, I feel like the speed, I would like the players to just move a little bit more. I would like a little bit more ability to get in and out of gunfights, right? If somebody tags me one time, you can come to a complete stop. You're pretty much dead, right? If you get tagged, you're dead in this game. Some of that stuff, I would like to see it tweaked a little bit, but there aren't like major flaws within the game. I think the core game is gorgeous, and so for that reason alone, I'm stoked about it. But it was overhyped a little bit. Like everybody was looking for the next big thing, and it's so hard to live up to that many people's expectations. It probably met a lot of people's expectations, but I'm sure there is a huge portion of the community out there that's also hoping for adjustments here and there. It's not exactly what they wanted it to be. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more, I think, next segment. But we got a chance to even watch, some competitive gameplay over the weekend or throughout this week. So there are things that even in there, I was like, okay, I would like to see this tweaked a little bit as I'm watching it.
I'm going to say it was to me personally, I'm going to say kick. And that's the fact that I don't think it was overhyped. I mean, it was hyped as hell, don't get me wrong. But I think it was more misunderstood by a lot of people. And I agree with everything that Hastro said. Like, yeah, the game took a little bit of everything, and we've even talked about that on the show. That's what made it so good, is that Riot kind of took what's that saying go? Like when you're high above the 3,000 view, whatever. I don't know. I think it's like a business term, but it's like you're taking that aerial shot, right? You're seeing everything. You're looking at the field, and now you can pick apart what you like from all these other scenes and say, okay, we want to make a game. Let's pick out what are the more popular games right now. CSGO, Overwatch. Okay, boom, boom. Let's pick these. What do we like about this game? Boom, boom. All right, cool. And then they designed a game around that concept. Now, that being said, though, for some of the complaints I've heard is like, oh, well, this just feels like Counter-Strike. Well, yeah, but what did you hear going into this? Like, yeah, of course, if you just don't like the concept or the feel of Counter-Strike, you're not going to like Valorant. I'm just telling you that right now. Like, we have buddies that do not like Counter-Strike because they're just not as intense, right? They haven't learned, they didn't grow up playing it. So to jump right in, it's difficult. It's not like all of a sudden they're going to dive into Valorant and be like, oh my God, this game is so different. I love it so much. No, it's close enough.
It's for people who are looking for a fresh take on their current game, right?
Yeah.
Like not looking for something completely different. Like I don't think Valorant or Riot ever came out and said they were trying to reinvent the wheel with this game. They were trying to take parts of their favorite games and make it like a version that more people would want to jump in and play, which I think they've really done on that front, right? If you enjoy Counter-Strike, you're going to love Valorant. Like there's really, when I say love, that might be a strong word. You're going to enjoy the feel of the game because it's going to be a similar style to what you're used to playing. You may not like the abilities, and that's, your own issue there. But in terms of the feel of the game, it's so eerily similar that it is natural for us to go in and do really well right away, right? If you're an Overwatch fan, you probably are enjoying the game, especially if you're a DPS player in Overwatch. This is probably what you want Overwatch to be like, And then you see these other guys coming in. I'm seeing a lot of Apex players coming into the game. These guys are aimers. Like Apex is such an aim-based, skill-based game that way. And then that's also an ability-based game that you have, that it's a really easy transition for those people. So I don't think Riot's intention was to reinvent the wheel. I think their intention was to make a game that feels comfortable for a majority of gamers already, and enhance that experience for them. And so for me, they have done that, right? Like, we've never once talked about Paladins on this show. So I know Mike says it looks like Paladins, but that's like the only comparison there. It is, in my eyes, it's like significantly um, better game than Paladins. But yeah, it does have the looks, I guess you could say. But that's where that kind of ends. Overall, I feel the hype was like really high and intense. It's not going to meet everybody's expectations, but um, it's going to meet a lot. Like, I could definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I still think it's a fun game. Again, it's just I think people misunderstood, and I think people thought it was going to reinvent their favorite game and stuff, and I don't think that was ever Riot's intention. I think their intentions always were, yeah, no, we're taking the best from everything and going from there.
A lot of people also didn't follow it the way we did, where we were getting feedback from people that were testing it, or within the scene that were openly talking about it. Like, the average fan's not following that type of content.
Right.
They're not following Henry G's Twitter feed. They might not be following that, right? Or they might not be on Reddit. Like, that's such a small percentage of the gamer base that for them, their expectations may have been very different than what reality was for them. People that were keeping up with it should have known this is a Counter-Strike type game, because everybody has said that. It's been the comparison from anybody and everybody that spoke about it openly prior to the release has said it's a Counter-Strike based game. But if you weren't following that scene,
and all you heard was Valorant, the new biggest game, you're going to play it and think, I mean, there's nothing that amazing about it. There's nothing revolutionary about
Counter-Strike and Overwatch.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. But that's the beauty of it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Just make a better one, right? Just make it different for people. So there you go there. Next up here, we have, will the Krieg nerf kill careers in CSGO? So obviously we talked a little bit about it last week or last episode, but the Krieg has finally been nerfed, and from what I'm hearing and seeing, pretty much out of the game. They pulled the old Blizzard tactic where they're like, oh, you guys want us to balance this? How about we just erase it out of the game with nerfs?
You want to lead off on this one?
Yeah. I think killing is too dramatic to say this is a clutch, but I definitely think it alters. I think it can definitely, and it won't be like it won't be like a switch, right? It won't be like an on and off switch where all of a sudden you see these guys who really kind of attached themselves to the SG all of a sudden start tanking. But I think maybe in like 2 months when they're like, man, what happened to Fnatic? They were doing so well. Like, maybe you could look back to this patch and see that, oh, maybe the Krieg nerf had something to do with it.
Yeah, I'm going to follow along the same lines as you there. Like, kill is a strong word for these guys are so super talented that, like, going back to a gun that they've probably used majority of their CS time, right? Like, the Krieg's only been relevant for only so much time. Like, it hasn't been that long, So these guys were like really good
for
prior.
How much people hated the gun, you would think it's been around forever. It's really only been this way for like 6 months, I think.
Yeah, maybe not even
in
that.
Fact,
but
for people who are new to Counter-Strike, before they buffed it and made it relevant, the question always was, why are these guns even in the game? Like, who buys this? No one buys this gun. Shroud used it like twice, and then all of a sudden you started seeing it pop up.
Yeah, and then you're right. Like, a lot of people were like, why don't we buff these other guns to make them relevant, right? Like, let's make it a bigger gun pool within Counter-Strike. Well, they did that, and it was hated. Like, people want what works in CS, and that's AKs, that's M4s. I think these guys will be great still, though. I don't think Brolin or Magisk is going to fall off. Like, it'll alter their game. I think initially there'll be a moment of getting used to using the AK again in all situations, but I think they'll be fine. Those guys are uber talented, man. Like, one gun, another gun, doesn't matter. They've mastered spray patterns. Their ability with crosshair placement is the best we will ever see. So it's just it's not killing anybody's career.
And if it does kill their career, they can just move over to Valorant because all their guns have scopes and you can ADS
That's
with
right.
all of them. So there you go. If you have a backup plan. All right, last clutch or kick. We have a special fourth one here for you today. And this is really just because I didn't know where else to put it in the show, but I definitely wanted to bring it up. So I don't know when this happened. When did I text you? This had to have been like 2 nights ago at like 1 a.m. But all of a sudden, I'm scrolling through. I'm sitting in bed, scrolling through Twitter as you do, Anuj. And all of a sudden, I stumble upon this thread between Monty from Flashpoint, formerly of Overwatch League, and Slasher, the #1 guy in esports that I don't really know what he does.
He's a consultant.
Yeah.
He's a leaker. I mean, he's like an insider.
He's just like a Twitter guy. Like, that's to me.
He's
I
an
know.
insider.
I know that's selling him short. I get that, but it's kind of all I think he does. They were going at it, and of course, you're like, well, why would Monty and Slasher be going at it? And it really just comes down to Monty and Thorn ended up tweeting out some low blows about how Flashpoint was finally able to beat out Overwatch League in viewerships. And just Monty tweeted out saying it feels good to know that, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said like something along the lines of it feels good getting out when you know the ship was sinking or something like that.
Yeah, like knowing you made the right decision to leave or something.
Right.
Like
Which I have something on that because I think that's BS. I don't think Monty was like, ooh, this Overwatch League thing isn't working out, I'm going to bail. I think he was like, oh, this isn't really going the way I thought it was, and I'm not really being used the way I thought I was going to be used, so I'm going to ditch this and go to a league that's going to use my expertise. It had nothing to do with him thinking the league was failing. If Overwatch was treating him well and paying him well, he would not have left.
No, yeah. He just didn't feel like they were using, like they weren't taking his insight from a creative direction standpoint.
Yes. It's just funny how that narrative has changed because when he first left, he was saying that he wishes him the best and he thinks they'll do well. And now it's, well, got out of that sinking ship, okay? But that's not what the clutch or kick is about. The clutch or kick is, will we ever see this Flashpoint viewership drama bickering ever go away? We talked about it last episode, which even then it was still a week old. It's like we could throw this in Yikes of the Week for the rest of the year, I feel like. They're always going to bring something up about their viewership numbers.
Definitely a kick for me. It's here to stay because the two talking heads for that league are almost kind of like our president. They don't know when to stop on Twitter. You know, like sometimes they go a little too far, send that one extra tweet. And it's like, it's nonsense because they're only doing damage to themselves. Like if they would just shut up and like worry about Flashpoint and focus on the league and building their brand, and not trying to stuff it in people's faces, there wouldn't be such a like negative connotation towards that league. I think people were really supportive at Flashpoint at the start. They really wanted, I think, that league to be the successful one. People were bashing on ESL for how they ran their events, and they were like kind of being greedy according to a lot of people. And that was like the narrative that was out there. And then you started seeing the talking heads of Flashpoint becoming overly vocal, sounding a little too cocky, and finding points to push on that almost like felt like it didn't make sense. And this is kind of the next straw for them. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them to keep pushing this agenda when they know there's data out there supporting exactly the opposite of what they're trying to say, right? Like Don Hossie tweeting out that picture of the viewership numbers that were from faceit.com or from the embedded site part of it, or from actual like viewers in chat. And so there's like data out there to shut them up and put them in place. You would think they would know that or smart enough to know that. Maybe they just don't care. I mean, whatever it is, it's not making them look good, but they don't know when to stop. So I'm going to say clutch. It's here to stay. They're going to do it the next time the numbers show another positive spike. Maybe that's just to get impressions and get that out there. And maybe you get that one extra investor that doesn't look, too much into it or whatever. But these guys don't know when to stop. Like they haven't done it. It's been months. And so
I remember like they did talk. I remember reading an article that Flashpoint was bringing in like WE consult, like what's the wrestling? WE, right?
WWE.
WWE. There you go. I don't watch it. Like consultants to talk to the players to how to drive up drama. Well, maybe this is part of that. I don't know, because it seems really idiotic when 2 weeks ago, Thorin was just busted for talking about your viewership numbers being through the roof or better. And then Don Hassey was like, no, not really. You embedded them. And now here's Monty bringing it right back, talking smack about how your viewership numbers are better than Overwatch. What I don't get is, I think this will stay for everything that you said. I don't get why it matters, because it's like, do people care? Like, do the fans care about any of this? I feel like this is like two dudes trying to like, it's like a dick measuring contest to a lesbian at this point, Anuj. And it's just like, I'm the lesbian and I don't care which of you have the bigger penis.
Yeah, it's basically like two bullies going up against nobody, because there's nobody like fighting back in this situation, right?
No.
Like no one from Overwatch is saying anything.
I would like to
None of
think
the
this is
other
that
talking
guy
heads
who was
from-
talking smack to me in CSGO and I muted him and he doesn't know I muted him. And then they just keep talking and talking and talking.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Like, it
No,
doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
You don't even see people from like ESL saying anything, and they're the ones that have like.
Well, and see, and so that's
is right.
This is what my favorite thing. I'm so glad you brought that up, because this is what I love about this. Is for the longest time, it was always about the CS leagues. It was always about Flashpoint versus ESL, Flashpoint versus ESL, and in reality, they kind of created that narrative. I think everyone else outside was kind of just looking forward to having two leagues. You know, in the end, obviously.
No, you're 100% right, though, because it was Dan Fidian, the guy from Cloud9, and it was Thorin. They were extremely vocal during the negotiations between getting teams and creating a narrative towards ESL on how they were doing things wrong. But they're the ones that pushed that narrative. It was like they were very vocal about that.
So that's why I think it's like, that's what it was always about, was ESL versus Flashpoint. And now, randomly, they're taking shots at Overwatch League, where it's like,
because that's who Monty's following is. Like, he knows what he's doing, right? Like,
of
when Thorin
course.
tweets it out, Thorin's tweeting it out to the CSGO community. And so if he's making fun of Overwatch, he knows he'll get a lot of people supporting him because they're just hating on Overwatch to hate on it. Monty doing it is a little bit more like effed up, because most of his fan base is coming from the Overwatch scene, at least a lot of his Twitter following, because that's, Twitter's become big in the last.
I just felt like that's kind of like they're literally looking for anything they can hang a hat on at this point, because it's like, hey Monty, how about you, if you're gonna compare something, compare to your own sport, right? Like, why don't you just compare it to your actual top competitor? But you're not doing that, because you know why? Your top competitor, ESL, is destroying Flashpoint when it comes to viewership. And again, the only reason we're even bringing it up on the show is because they bring it up. I don't care about the viewership numbers. Half of them are bots, half of them are Chinese, whatever, that doesn't matter. Like anytime someone brags about viewers, it always comes back as being halfway fake anyways. But yet, when you bring it up here, when you start throwing punches at Overwatch League, it's kind of like, well, dude, you're going to get people saying like, well, how about you worry about your own backyard?
It's like Dota 2 coming out and talking shit about Smite. Like, why are you making that comparison? They've never been in the same, like, it's just a weird thing for him to come out and do and try and take it. It's just a cheap shot. That's all it is. It's just a cheap shot. It's a low blow. And it's, again, doesn't even make sense to do it, because you're going to end up looking worse in this situation. Nobody else is sitting here talking trash about Overwatch. It's just like these guys doing it, right? Like, let them have their game. If the game dies, it's not because of a lack of support from, like, at least the current fan base, because they're a bunch of diehards that are there. Maybe for other reasons, you could have issues, but like, nobody's sitting there bashing them. Like, let them have what they have. Let them do what they're doing. Focus on your game. Like, you have plenty of issues. You have no top 10 teams for the most part in your league. You have orgs that are without an org. You have teams without an org. You have other issues within
You
your
have
league. Like I
teams
would focus on
backing
that.
out a couple weeks into your season, right? Like it's just, and that was kind of Slasher's point, I think, is when Slasher was like, hey, dude, they might not have the viewership numbers, but they also just got paid straight cash to be on YouTube. So they're getting the money. They're getting the advertisers.
What do you say, 160 million?
I think that's what it was, something like that, to be on YouTube. And it's like Slasher's point is, and now you're broadcasting on everything for nothing. So like,
Yeah.
why worry about your own backyard before you start peeking into your neighbors?
Flashpoint got roughly $14 million because they got $2 million from each buy-in team, right?
Yeah.
And that was the money that they got. And that's to run all their operations and everything for the next X number of years, right? Like it's not like these teams have to keep putting more money in.
I hope at
Blizzard
this
walked
point,
with 160. It's
if
a
I
big difference.
if I was a bitter Overwatch League fanboy, anytime I saw Flashpoint numbers below an Overwatch League match, I would let Montino. That's what I would do. Now I'm not an Overwatch League fanboy, so I'm a professional. I won't do that. But like I think we saw it last episode where it's like we both saw Flashpoint's numbers were like low. What were the numbers that we saw during the Cloud9 match?
1.6K or something like that.
I mean, something really, really low. But
Look, I'll be honest with you. I haven't really been watching Flashpoint at all. Okay, and like we're an esports show. Like I followed ESL really closely. Enjoyed it throughout the season. I actually enjoyed the tournaments. Although I kind of like you, I wish we had that one big one. But I enjoyed having the tournaments the way they are. I know MIBR is in the finals. I can tell you that because I follow it at least that much. Beyond that, what, we're going to have a Havu or Mad Lions going up against MIBR in the finals? How exciting is that for season 1?
yeah, I watched Cloud9, I watched Envy, but yeah, I don't know.
Brazilian channels get significantly more views for Flashpoint.
Oh,
than
100%.
Flashpoint's channel itself, that Gauls guy or whatever his name is, he gets 10 times the viewership that Flashpoint is getting. So again, focus on your own league. You have your own issues. I'm surprised the owners haven't come out that have some stake in this, right? Like, and told these guys to kind of shut up a little bit.
Well, I mean, at this point too, like some of your owners in Flashpoint have ownership in Overwatch League. So if I were those owners, I'd be especially pissed. Like if I was Envy and it's like, dude, we own
Envy, Cloud9, like these
guys.
guys.
That's right. Even Cloud9. Like I'd be like, guys, can we not bag on one of our other teams here? Like I get that they're separate, but they're kind of the same at this point. Like it's just a bad look. So there you go. There's all your clutch or kick. Let's get into Valorant here because Riot has released some things for their esports plans. But first, let me tell you about Thrive Fantasy. They are your daily fantasy sports app for prop bets. If you enter the code TCR upon signup, you will get an instant $10 match on your first deposit for a minimum of $10. So you put in $10, you walk away with $20. Super easy money, bro. Enter TCR upon sign up. All right, so let's get into some Valorant here for a little bit, Anuj. I know yesterday, we had our first, I don't want to say tournament, but I guess it kind of was. 100 Thieves hosted an event for Valorant, and I don't know. Did you get to watch any of it?
I did. I actually watched a decent amount. I had that on the second monitor while I was working, because there were some really talented teams in here. Just to kind of go off of a few of them, the 100 Thieves team had Nade Shot, but it had 4 players from their Counter-Strike team. Shroud's team was like old complexity, basically, with like Hiko, Skadoodle, Shroud, Brax, AZK was there. A lot of talented teams. I mean, even like Ace and Mendo were on a team along with like Poach from Liquid. And so they did a good job of bringing like pro level talent to this competition. So for that reason, I was pretty interested.
I watched some of it live, most of it afterwards, like on VOD and everything on YouTube. I did enjoy being able to kind of see how teams were functioning as like as a team, right? Like for the most part, even when we play, it's kind of questionable, right? Like I even was talking to some of our listeners in Discord, and they're like, "How do you like Valorant compared to CS?" It's still a little early to make that decision, right? Because it's like, dude, I've been playing CS for 20 years. Like, please don't ask me to compare it to a game that I've played for a week and mainly by myself. Like, I gotta get five stacks in there. I gotta have executions. I gotta know strats. So you saw some of that happening. Apart from obviously the observing and the casters and everything being lackluster here, Golden Boy and everything there. It was interesting. I think it gave us a good idea though on what we would like to see when it comes to Valorant being a competitive esport, and from like a viewership standpoint, like an actual observer thing, like screen, right? Like with information and things like that. It's going to be nice.
Yeah, like I'm more curious to see how the observing is done, because like obviously the way it was done, and when we were talking about like Golden Boy and these guys, I think what Tim's referring to is they don't have like high level knowledge of the game yet, so they can't talk about it from like a competitive or strategic. They're not adding like strategic value when they're commentating, and also there was a really awkward delay in their commentating and like the actual game. So like a play would happen, and then like 5 seconds later they would reference the play. So I thought that was really weird. I couldn't figure out why that was going on, and it seemed like that wasn't just me. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. Like it wasn't great. It wasn't like a life changing experience, but again, like that's not. I don't think that's what I was necessarily expecting. Like it just needed to feel good.
I just wanted to see what competitive Valorant felt like. You know, well, I'll worry more about it if it's like an actual like production studio handling it and not just 100 Thieves throwing this together and trying to make it work. But we did have Riot kind of release their roadmap, if you want to call it that, for what they're expecting for esports, some ground rules out there. So I have a few bullet points here. The first one is, it will not mirror League of Legends. So when I hear that, I think it's necessarily talking about like, don't expect it to be how they handle League of Legends.
Yeah, because League of Legends was their first introduction into esports. That obviously took a lot longer to build, from the ground up. They're at a level that Valorant could only dream of hopefully one day achieving, right? But they also want this to happen organically. So they're not going to force a franchise league with $20 million buy-ins before the game is tested and proven. And I think that that's really smart, right? Like they could have probably gone in and done that if they wanted to, Tim, right? Like they could have started this game off and been like, hey, before we're even live, like we're starting the bidding. If you want in, get in. And chances are they would have got the money that they were asking for, considering what we've seen recently for Call of Duty teams, Overwatch teams. Like I would think Valorant could generate just as much hype in a pre-seeding type situation. But they want this to happen organically. And I think that's a really good thing, is letting like third party, and I'll mention the next bullet point here because I'm going to talk about it, but looking at like third party organizations to start running their tournaments for them. Think of your DreamHacks, your ESLs, your Star Ladders, like whoever it could be. There's so many out there that have the ability to put on a high quality production event. And that's a good way to start, because you'll see how the interest is. That'll give them some direction on how they need to run the league. So I think this is the right way to do it.
I will put an asterisk on that one. It will not mirror League of Legends yet.
Yet. Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, not from day one.
Not from day one, which might be smart, right? You don't want to kind of do like an Overwatch where you had a healthy esports scene and then you really did kill it off with the Overwatch League. We're even seeing that a little bit with Call of Duty, where you had that healthy system and then kind of killed it with the franchising the way they did it.
But that's going to happen here too.
It's going to happen.
Like there will eventually be a franchise model league here. And a lot of people are going to get left out in the dirt, but those people can also capitalize and make money if they do it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I also think they want to know how big it's going to be, right? Like, do they want to handle it like League of Legends, where you have franchise models, but with different leagues in each, NA, EU, China, whatever, right? Korea, all those different leagues you have filtering into your world championship. Do they want to handle it that way?
Is it going to be big in all of those markets?
Yeah.
Like that's important to know. Like, can you get 7 to 10 quality teams in?
And so I'll bring up one of the next talking points here then, because we see them making some pushes towards that. One of the big ones here is that they are saying any sanctioned Riot event, you will have to turn off the blood setting in the game. So there's a setting in there to turn off blood. You will have to then turn that off if you want to have a Riot sanctioned event. You might ask why. That seems silly. Because countries, this is from what I understand, countries like China, they censor a lot of that, and that's why a lot of games aren't as popular there, because they don't allow violent, quote-unquote, games, so they turn off the blood.
Counter-Strike had to make a whole new version of their game for the Chinese market, and there was a lot of heat around this topic today, actually, on Twitter, regarding the whole blood situation, and for me, it's like, dude, this is the smartest thing they could do, because this has been the hottest topic in Counter-Strike for as long as I can remember. We've talked about it on this show so many times of like, let's not call them terrorists and counter-terrorists. Is the blood a turnoff for potential sponsors? Well, they don't call them counter-terrorists and terrorists. They're attackers and defenders.
You're planting a spike.
Planting a spike, not a bomb. It looks, very different with this black orb kind of coming out from it. It's not even like a true explosion. And then, the blood setting, like, I just feel like it's a really smart move. As a player, it's not going to affect anybody, right? Like, visually, I'm curious what is, like, going to come out from them, because there has to be some sort of way of knowing.
Well, I mean, we can just turn it off and see what it is, right?
Yeah.
We can turn off that setting and just see. I don't understand. I get, like, some people... I agree with you. I think for the longest time in Counter-Strike, we could say offense and defense, and it would make zero difference on how we view the game. So I'm okay with it. I don't understand why they even have blood in the game at that point then. Like, just take it out. Like, who cares? But I also find it also funny. Like, I will poke fun at China to be like, so you don't want blood, but I can still shoot you in the face. Like, just so we're on the same page here. Okay. All right, China. I see what you're doing. But they are making strides though to make it more acceptable globally, and I don't have any real issue with that.
No, like, look, these are, again, just like in part of how they built the game, they took parts and bits and pieces of other games that they liked and put it together. They also understood flaws from other games and have now turned those into positives, right? Like a way for them to sell themselves. And they understand that that's a big hurdle for Counter-Strike. So smart move. Like, I mean, I don't really have much else to say. I would be shocked, I am shocked that many people see otherwise, but again, I just feel like there's people poking at it just because they have nothing better to do right now.
Some of the other things is we've kind of mentioned that they are setting it up when they are allowing like these sanctioned events is into a 3-tier system. So small, which would be community events with no larger than a $10,000 prize pool. So that will probably be
that'll be like the smaller podcasts and things. That won't be people like us, because we would fall more into that medium to major tier.
Yeah, for sure. That would be kind of like your weekly tournaments, I guess, or whatever that you have at your local centers.
Nerd Street Gamers.
Yeah,
and things
Nerd
like
Street,
that would fall
Esports
into
Stadium, if they host something other than like an actual event, right?
Yeah.
And then you have your medium tier, which will be Esports Orgs, $50,000 prize pool. So that is, you're looking at like your DreamHack event. You're actually going to have real orgs there playing. And then your major events, which will be hosted by big esports leagues. That's going to be your ESL, DreamHack Masters. Those are the big boys, right?
Yeah.
No, I am curious to see how Riot plays along, though, because Riot is notorious for having their hands a little bit too involved with these type of things. And given the fact of how strict they are with League of Legends, are they going to be able to just loosen up with another game? Like, are they going to be able to mentally separate themselves, Anuj, from being like, this is not League of Legends, we don't have to be as involved?
Yeah, I think they will, because I think what they're doing is they're really trying to gauge how this process is going to work for them when they reel it all back in, because they know they own it, right? Like, it's
At
theirs.
any
So
moment they want,
at
they
any
could.
moment, like, it's starting to get too big or out of control, it's like, okay, we're launching, we're going live with whatever they have in place at that point in time. But I think it's smart for them to let these guys find the issues and the flaws for them, um, find ways to make spectating a better experience, find ways to cast properly, and infographics, and, like, the touch screens. Like, let these companies invest the money by giving them freedom to do it the way they want to do it, and then you take those great ideas like you did with building this game and put it into your franchise league when the time comes. But I think they'll be a little bit looser, because, again, at any moment they can just pull the string, and it's theirs again. So yeah, I think they'll let them. I think they'll let them run it the way that they see it needs to be run, at least initially.
So overall, I mean, like I said, that's kind of it in short, as far as what they've kind of laid down the groundworks for how they're approaching their esports side. I still think it's adorable when Riot says they don't know if they want to create a league or how big it's going to be. That's just adorable, Riot. But you can keep saying that as long as you want, I guess, because we all know that the game's going to be. I still think it's going to be wildly popular. I understand some people aren't liking it. I think just to say they don't like it, and then you have those guys where they prefer CS, and there's no issue with that, or people who prefer another game. There's no issue. Look, just because it's a new game doesn't mean you have to love it. But I mean, all the pieces are there. All the ingredients are there to make this a wildly successful esport and an easy one to follow and talk about. I would be shocked if it doesn't catch on.
Do you think launching with 4 maps, if that's for an extended period of time, could be a hindrance, considering we're getting to play 3 of them for the next few months prior to it actually going live? Like, would you get bored of playing if these were the only 3 maps you could play over and over and over again? Again, they're adding one more.
Right,
Um,
right.
but would you get bored after, I don't know,
I'm going to
6 months of
say
just jamming out the same 4
no.
maps?
I'm going to say no, and that's because, again, I'm thinking of this logically, and I'm thinking I really only play like 4 maps in CS anyways.
Let's
Now,
go back to the average gamer then.
I still don't think so, because you have games like Call of Duty that didn't have that. I mean, they didn't have 4 maps, but they didn't have a crazy map pool with it. And even Counter-Strike doesn't have that crazy of a map pool, and it even lets you pick what maps you want to play, right? So like a lot of people only play Dust 2 or something like that in Team Fortress. For the longest time, people only played one map, 2 Fort. That was it. That's the only map people even knew existed in Team Fortress for the longest time. I don't think that's the big issue, especially when it's like when you have ranks and everything. Like, that's what people are going to be grinding about. I don't think that's that big of an issue, especially because like the style of game, you're going to play each game different. Each match
every round
will be different.
It's going to feel different. For sure. I agree. I mean, I'm trying to kind of take in what a lot of my friends are telling me, and I'm trying to get as many opinions as I can, because I'm genuinely curious what people think about it, and how they feel about it just after a week of playing. And again, 90% of the feedback we've gotten has been great.
Yeah.
Like, it's really been through the roof. But there is that small, there's a small group of people out there that don't like the way it plays. We didn't even mention Dr. Disrespect him in the 100 Thieves tournament. His team forfeited 10 minutes before the event started, because he saw the competition and realized it was a bunch of Counter-Strike pros, and they were probably going to get smoked. So that tilted him a little bit. But B, he came out and said he just didn't like the game. Like he was like, this is like a little, he calls it his fairy game, and it's more that it's Counter-Strike all over again. And he's not a big Counter-Strike fan. He likes the run and gun Call of Duty
Right.
style shooter, so very different. But there is a group of people out there that truly believe that it's not a good game. But I think it's going to be huge in esports, man.
Again, I would ask those same people what you think of Counter-Strike. Right?
Yeah. No, that's a good call. I mean, and I actually just know firsthand that several of them are not Counter-Strike fans, right?
Exactly. What games do you like? Well, I love Call of Duty. Well, okay. You're not
or I love MOBAs.
Right.
That's what I play.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Like, I'm a big League guy, so I thought it was going to be, I thought I was going to like it because it was Riot. Well, okay. Well, then that's fine. It's fine that it's not your cup of tea. Counter-Strike isn't everyone's cup of tea. It's a lot, right? It's a very popular game, but it's not going to be for everyone. So, again, I do think, though, like of course, these are just idiots on Twitter, but talking about how, the game's not even anywhere from being esports ready, or it's in beta, so I don't know what you really want to say to that. I do think, though, it's in the right direction. I don't think the map hindrance is going to be an issue. I don't think, and even like with Raz, right? Like, is that how you say her name? Raz? Raze?
Raze.
Yeah. Like even her being pretty broken in the sense of with her utilities and everything like that. I still don't see that just completely killing the game like you would see in Overwatch with the shield meta.
She won't get used a ton in Pro League. She'll be abusive in Pugs, but I don't think that's a character that's going to get used a ton from a competitive standpoint because she lacks the ability to be able to help your
right. Like I said, I think that we are I don't think we've even seen the real Valorant, if you want my honest opinion, because again, go back and watch the 100 Thieves matches compared to the devs versus the pros. Those devs embarrassed them because they were playing the way that it should be being played, and those pros who we thought were going to completely embarrass the devs got embarrassed. Well, those same pros played in this 100 Thieves tournament and dominated, and a lot of it's because they're raw aimers and whatnot. But I'm just saying is I don't think we have seen Valorant yet, right? I think we're all playing it, and I think we're all playing it the way we want to. I don't think we've seen the way it should be played yet.
Until people are sitting in like servers just theory crafting for hours and hours and hours on end until they find different smokes and ways to use recon bolts and just everything, then we'll see the game at another level. And that's when the balancing and all that will really take place once it's being played at that level. It'd be fun to do like some over-unders when the first real tournament is here with like real teams, not like streamer type teams or like, this type of tournament that we saw with 100 Thieves. Like do some over-unders with like how many viewers the first event gets. I'd be genuinely curious if it, is that viewership that we just saw that was breaking records purely because of the beta keys, or is there really that much hype around it? Will people still be that interested 3 months from now?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it, if anything, just from a podcast standpoint. I'm looking forward to seeing how things work out for them. But yeah, so obviously we will keep a close eye on Valorant and go from there. Let's get into some e-news, though, as we have a pretty light couple of days, though, since our last episode. In Overwatch, history has been made as Carpe becomes the first player in league history to reach 4,000 kills. I think he actually ended the weekend at 4,040. His 4,000th kill. His 4,000 kill 4,000. His 4,000th kill.
4,000th kill.
Why is that tripping me up? It's difficult. It's late in the show. Was a Torb turret kill.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
One of the deadliest DPS player in the league, and his kill to break it, his milestone kill was a Torb turret.
What's like second place? Do you know?
I don't know. I think it's Prophet on Soul. I don't know his exact number, but I think it's like 700 less. Now, keep in mind, he plays on Seoul and they haven't played. You'll have to wait till end of the year to really judge this.
Yeah.
Like it's almost a little unfair to say like, well, congratulations, you were the first one here. It's kind of like, well, bro, you were the only one playing. Like, you and 6 other teams are the only ones.
You have a half season ahead of all of us right now.
Yeah, so let's wait until let's play the same amount of games and then judge it, right? But whatever.
Flex retires as the head coach of the Toronto Defiant.
Felks.
Little bit of Felks.
Felks.
Odd timing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so he didn't just retire from being the head coach. He straight up retired. Like saying that he's going to go a different route in life. Mid-season.
Somebody had a job offer on the table.
I think he said he's going back to Paris and being with like his wife and they're obviously from there, right? So he's going back home and he's just like, this has put a lot of stress on us. And obviously with everything going on in the world, it's just even been more stressful. But mid-season coach retirement? You want my hot sports opinion? He was never coaching material. If I'm looking for a coach, I want a ride or die type of coach. I do not want him even thinking about retiring or giving up mid-season.
Yeah, I mean, granted, we don't know what his personal like family life situation is. But
yeah, that's a caveat. I can always back out of that statement if it's really bad.
Yeah. Like if it's something awful or causing
then I'm backing away. I was joking.
Like, okay, I get it, but yeah, the timing is weird. Like it's not even like it's a true halftime period to. You kind of just wish you would have, obviously been able to stick it out for his team at least through the end of the year as a coach. But my guess is the team is going to be fine with it. Like they would have found a way, I think, to make this work and make it comfortable for him if he was like a huge contributor to what they were trying to do over there. Not to say he wasn't doing anything, but they're probably going to be okay. They can probably get somebody else in there and make it work just fine. Like if he's laid out the groundwork properly, they're going to be okay.
Yeah. It's just interesting, man. Interesting what happens in esports. Mid-season coach retirement. Unreal. Battle Royale and Rocket League news. TSM has decided to part ways with their Rocket League and PUBG rosters, but they are still exploring options for staying in those games. I don't believe that.
Still an esport.
What's that?
I'm surprised PUBG is like still going strong.
I mean, we talked to those people though from Esports India. And they were like, "That's all
like
people play." I know, but still, it's
just crazy.
PUBG has that crowd.
TSM needs to find their way into Valorant and CS:GO is what they need to do. Rocket League's a little surprising because like that can't be some heavy burden to keep a team active on Rocket League.
I don't know what their performance was either though. Maybe they weren't great in Rocket League because that's a good scene. I know some dum-dum on Reddit was like, well, that makes sense because neither of those games have a competitive scene. What? Rocket League has like a very strong competitive scene and support from the devs. Like, what are you talking about? Like that.
No, and you'll notice we didn't mention Rocket League and as a surprise. It was the PUBG one in the sense of it's surprising that scene is like still as big as it is.
Yeah.
Just after all the competition and all that they've had throughout time. But yeah, Rocket League to me is a surprising move that they left it just because it's not like it's a pretty cost-effective game to stay in. We talked to owners that have told us that same thing. But you're right. We don't know I don't know how their performance was, so maybe that was a big reason for dropping them.
And Anuj, LG Hyena goes off on Ubisoft.
That was pretty crazy, man. Like he formerly of LG and his team as well. Like they basically got caught in this middle battle of LG wanting to hold what you talked about last week, Tim, of drawing the lines between who holds the spot, the players or the team. Well, in this case, it was the team. They were letting go their whole squad. These guys were left in limbo. And so he just went on a Twitter rant that was basically calling out Ubisoft because he was trying to communicate with them and they blew him off. He was trying to communicate with his org and they weren't really giving him information. And now these players are kind of out in the dark, stuck somewhere because they were there during the COVID situation. They were trying to figure out, like, should we go home? Do we have a spot? Do we not have a spot? Well, they didn't get word until it was like too late, and so for them it's super unfortunate. But this guy like really knows how to write a good Twitter rant. So it's LG Hyena. Go check it out on his Twitter. It's definitely a fun read.
I've said it last week. I'll say it again. There just needs to be something out there in like the league bylines, like when you first sign into the league and contract, to let the players and org know. And I really don't care either way they go, right? Like I used to be more pro org, where I'm like, no, the org should own that spot because that's how it works in every other sport. Like the players don't get to just keep the spot. But
Yeah.
I don't even care at this point. It's just you need to let them know so they know going into it. Right? So you don't get into a situation like this.
For sure.
And then some sad news, as we have learned that the voice actor Rick May has passed away due to complications of COVID-19. For those who don't know him as a name, you definitely know him as a voice. He was the voice of Soldier in Team Fortress 2 and Pepe from Star Fox, which of course famously said, "Do a barrel roll." And we all know that.
Yeah, rest in peace, man. It's sad because obviously it was from complications of COVID. So it was, anyone that's passing away from this, you want to sit here and be like, man, it really wasn't their time. Like it doesn't feel like it should have been their time. And that's the worst part about this, is it's just taking people too soon. And yeah, I mean, rest in peace, condolences to him and the family, and definitely a voice that's going to be missed.
The hours I've spent on TF2 playing as Soldier, especially, like one of the best characters in an FPS. It's a shame because TF2 was a game weirdly ahead of its time in the sense of how esports was ran and like competitive leagues were ran. But that doesn't take away from the fact that like it is still one of the more iconic games, and he was one of the more iconic characters in it. So a big ol' stay hard to Rick May, voice of TF2 Soldier, and Pepe from Star Fox. That will just about do it for us here at the Center Ring. One quick thing though, I forgot. Well, yeah, I'll shout it out on the show. I don't give a shit. So, there's a podcast called Pardon My Take. They're like the #1 sports podcast out there, and they do with Barstool. Friday. So by the time you're listening to this on Thursday, you need to go do it. Go on their iTunes, Pardon My Take, and leave a 5-star review and give a shout out to us on their iTunes page. That sounds very ass backwards, I know. But you leave them a 5-star review with a shout out to the Center Ring Esports podcast. And on Friday, they're doing like a charity event where they're shouting out to podcasts on their review thing. This will be for those guys, for you, those of you who always say you want to support the show, but you just don't really know how. You don't have to do it financially by any means. This is one of those ways, because this could be the cheapest advertising we ever do for the show.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'll definitely be on that myself.
So go and do that for us. I also put a big link in the description of it on our Discord as well. So that's where you can find that. All right. So that will officially do it for episode 230 of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. We will be back Sunday night to record Monday's episode, as we have Yikes of the Week. We are now accepting bets to see if Flashpoint makes the Yikes of the Week. Seems pretty strong. They're always in there somehow. Also, keep an eye on Twitter, because for next Wednesday night's show, we will be reviewing a documentary for esports. Don't know which one yet, but we'll definitely know by Sunday.
Last shout out, Tim. We might be having a community night on Friday, so if you're following us on Twitter or you're in our Discord, keep an eye out for that, because we're going to release some details. We're going to try and run some custom 10-mans in Valorant. Hopefully you all have keys. If you do, again, you can hit us up on our Twitter or again in our Discord. Easiest ways to stay in touch with us. We'll post more details in there. But again, we're shooting for this Friday night, guys. So as you're hearing this, it's probably coming up around the corner. Maybe start around 9, 10, 11, somewhere in that time frame. It'll be a late night gaming session. So if you're free, want to play, we'd love to have you. Again, Twitter, Discord, all the details there.
Yes, for sure. Thanks for remembering that. I'm Tim for Anuj. We'll see ya.